I've got a bit of a confession to make. I got triggered during this month's book club meet. And well, okay, let me rephrase that. I didn't get triggered entirely, but what happened was one of our ladies was discussing one of the stories in our current read, Regrets of the Dying. And she asked the question, how do we create a balance between our personal life and our work life? And can we have both? And as she was speaking, I found myself biting my tongue. And then I just said, I really don't like that word balance, because there's no such thing as balance. And I went on to share my thoughts, my opinions, my position on this. And I thought, you know what? This is something to bring to the podcast, because I feel that this is something we do need to talk about, as it is something that challenges many of us and leads us, especially women, to feel and harbor feelings of guilt and shame towards ourselves. So yeah, let's talk about it. If this is the first time that you listen to my podcast, hello, my name is LaYinka and I'm a transformation coach and change facilitator. And ultimately, I like to work with women who are motivated and help them to have amazing breakthroughs to be able to live with and in their God-given potential. Now, let's get into this topic. Let's talk about balance, because I hear it a lot. I've heard it from clients, that question of how do I create a balance? How do I have the balance? Work-life balance, home-life balance, this life balance, and all the balancing that we want to balance in our lives. And my position on this is that there is no such thing. There is no such thing as balance. When we think of the term balancing, picture a scale in your mind. And with that scale in your mind, you have two sides, right? And on either side, in order for there to be a balance of the scales, the things on each side have to be equal. There has to be an equilibrium of equality. Big words. Equilibrium of equality between the two sides. Meaning that when we're talking about having balance, we are ultimately saying that we would be giving equal amounts, the same amount of attention, time, and energy to the things that we're saying that we want to create a balance between. So let's say your work and your personal life. When we talk about work-life balance, we're inadvertently saying that there will be an equal measure of each, an equal measure of energy, time, attention, etc. towards each. And we can never do that. We can never do that. It's impossible. The idea of being able to equally divide our time, energy, focus to our career and our family and our health and everything else, and creating this perfect balance is unattainable, because life will always life. And having so many areas of our lives just lifing with us, we can't give equal time, energy, and attention to every single one. So you know what I say? I say, let's throw the word balance to the wall, smash it into smithereens, and instead embrace the word harmony. Let's talk about harmony. What does harmony mean then? Harmony, and I want you to now picture, because I'm a visual person, so let's picture now a pie, a whole pie. And that pie is whole. That represents your life as a whole. And there'll be different slices in that pie. Now, what we're saying is that this is my whole life pie, and there's a harmony between the pieces of the pie, in spite of the fact that some pieces might be smaller than others, but because they work as part of the whole pie, then I've got a harmony within my whole, right? And I like to think about it like this, because number one, it takes away the pressure from having to try to create equality of time, effort, energy, attention to multiple areas of my life. Impossible. And also, it allows me to know and embrace the fact that in some chapters of my life, some eras of my life, some even weeks, some days, certain things will need more time, energy, attention, and focus, and others are going to take a backseat. But that's just how the harmony of that day of that week, of that month, of that chapter is looking like. And that's okay. It embraces the fact that life is fluid and enables you to be adaptable to the fluidity of life. So then you're not holding yourself to an impossible outcome of creating equality between each area of your life. What you're doing is saying, okay, in this chapter of my life, right now, maybe my relationships need to get a lot of my attention. Yes, I might still be working full time, or I might still be studying, or I might still be whatever, but my relationships are really important to me. So what does that do to your brain? That wires you to start to think about how you are going to give priority to those areas, what you're going to put into those areas, what energy you're going to put into those areas, how you're going to show up into those areas of your life, or that area of your life that has a slightly bigger slice of the pie. And so even though the other pie slices are there, they're ticking over, they're not completely being abandoned or obliterated, they're still there. But when you're thinking about prioritizing your time, energy, focus, and attention, you know that, it's this one right here. And there's an intentionality in how you go about doing that. I love this model because it allows me to come forth with intentionality. It allows me to really think about how am I going to, and how do I choose to bring the sense of priority into these areas of my life that I say are slightly bigger pieces of the pie. So in chapters of my life where I am focusing on business, I'm focusing on work, yes, that does mean that the other slices of my pie might be smaller. They haven't been removed. They haven't been erased. They are still getting attention with intentionality, and also knowing that I'm pouring into this for a purpose and it's good. And I'm good with that because I'm aware of the outcome. I'm aware of the thing that I'm working towards. I'm aware of what I want. Ultimately, this sense of harmony is really about creating a beautiful melody in your life. Yeah. So even if you wanted to look at this from a musical standpoint, if the pie imagery ain't working for you, thinking about an orchestra and you have different instruments of different sizes, of different sounds, of different intensities, all playing together to create this melody that is beautiful and that works. They work together. So even if some are small and some are a little bit quiet and some are bold and louder, all together, the symphony and the melody is harmonious. So maybe some days the career trumpet might be blaring loud, while other days the family flute takes center stage. The key part to all of this is that even if the instruments, okay, we're going with the music element right now, even if the instruments are unequal in terms of size, in terms of intensity, in terms of volume, whatever it might be, they all contribute to the richness of your life symphony. They all contribute to the richness of your life symphony. Now, the reason why I advocate for this so deeply is because we bring undue stress to ourselves when we say we want a balance. We have decreased feeling of wellness and well-being and contentment in our lives with having the energy of harmony. You have increased focus, you have the intentionality, you have productivity, you have a sense of fulfillment, contentment, you have a sense of a deeper sense of purpose. You have also greater resilience in the face of challenges, because life will life and challenges will come your way. It's just a fact of life. That's the benefit here. And the benefit of that far outweighs the idea of let's have a balance, because balance doesn't exist, right? So you might be thinking, okay, LaYinka, what do I need to do to be able to create harmony? What are the steps? The first step is knowing what your core values are and what's important to you. this can be a whole podcast itself, yo. Why? Because so many of us aren't even aware that some of our quote unquote values are not those of our own, but they're those that other people have dictated for us. Okay, this needs to be another podcast. This needs to be another podcast. And so knowing what your core values are, what matters to you, that is your starting point. And then building from there, setting your goals, setting your priorities, knowing that life is dynamic. And so your priorities will be too, right? What you're focusing on will shift and change too. And your priorities will be based on your values in this chapter of your life. Sometimes even in this week of your life, sometimes even in this day of your life. So maybe this week, the goal is smashing it at work. Maybe the next day it's focusing on that exam that's coming up for your studies. Or the next week, it might be focusing on quality time with your family. Life isn't static. Life is dynamic. Life is fluid. Life will always life. And so you need to be able to make moves along with the movement of life, sis, but making moves with intentionality so that you're not like, you're not like a leaf in the wind. When the wind goes who, you go who. When the wind goes ha, you go ha. You don't want to go ha and who just with the wind. Okay, I am actually doing hand movements. Fluidity means that you can make intentional moves with the winds of life. I'm bringing way too many metaphors in this episode. But I'm sure that you are following. And ultimately what I'm saying, my lovely, is I want you to embrace imperfection. And the imperfection of you as a human, but also the dynamic imperfection of how life can sometimes feel, even though it's been perfectly planned by the master planner himself, right? This one has been a long one, but I do want to say this because I mentioned I'll be dropping something in the last episode. What I shared, this idea of harmony, creating harmony, working towards harmony, is very much in alignment with a new private podcast that I have launched this month. And I launched it privately to my mailing list, to my ladies from the Level Up Collective. So if you weren't in either of those, that's why you didn't get the notification. But I now have a new private podcast and growth community called Quest for Alignment. And it's really for women who want to close the gap between their intentions and their actions, between what they know and what they do. It's about having that intentionality, forward movement, and you deciding authentically what that movement looks like and feels like for you. It's not about gung-ho, go, 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 masculine energy, hustle, hustle, hustle. It's really about looking at the different, and I have 10 different slices of your life, 10 different areas of your life, understanding your action, intentionality, alignment in each of them, and then deciding, okay, what's going to get my focus? Where am I prioritizing? And you can see that it's really taking this harmony piece and really putting it to action. So if you, my lovely, want to have access to the private podcast and the growth community attached to that private podcast, go to layinkasani.com/quest, QUEST, and join us there. Okay, that is where you can get access to some of my personal insights. So I want you to think LaYinka brings the real tea about herself too and her journey. That energy, yeah. And you have the sisterhood, the community, the tools and the support to be able to close the gap between what you know and what you do and get that beautiful movement of action and alignment in your life. So again, if you want in on this private podcast and there's nowhere that you can access it but via the community, go to layinkasani.com /quest and come on in. Look forward to seeing you there, sis.